And we're live 3 days in a row. Have you guys ever in your life done 3 live stream podcasts in a row?
No.
I have not either.
I don't think
I've only
ever
done
will
2
again.
in a row. And actually, you haven't done any in a row.
That's right.
You've
So
only done one at a time. Thank you all so much for joining us. We are stoked to be here from day 3, the longest day yet, of the motor1.com/inside EVs Star Awards 2022. Awesome day out at the track. We've been driving EVs. We've been driving performance cars. We're going to save the performance cars for tomorrow. We're really going to focus in on EVs because we have done our best to invite all of our most ardent EV fans and followers to pay attention to this one. We've already got a comment from Stephen Greathead who says, "Hi, inside." I think he means inside EVs. He said, "Hi, inside Eva," but I think he means inside EVs. But hello, Stephen.
hi, how's it going, Steven?
Steven setting the stage, you guys. For all of you out there who are watching, we would love to have comments, questions. Just say hello. Ask us anything about the cars that we've been driving. A really fantastic set. But before we get to that, a quick word from our title sponsor this year, which is very exciting, especially for today, on our EV day. The 2022 Motor1.com Star Awards are brought to you by E-Range EV Tires. The all-new E-Range EV is a tire specifically engineered for
Electric vehicles.
That's right.
Electric
Yes,
vehicles.
That's right. Using an advanced manufacturing process called liquid phase mixing, E-Range EV's EcoPoint 3 technology creates a tire with lower rolling resistance and longer range while offering low levels of wear and high
Grip.
Yes, very good.
Yes. 2 for 2.
All this while staying affordable. You guys should absolutely check out E-Range EV tires. We're excited at some point to be able to test them on an electric vehicle. It'll be really fun. You can go check it out right now at erangetires.com. That's ERANGE tires.com to find your next EV set of tires. With that handled, and thanks so much, Saloon and E-Range EV. We really, really appreciate it. We're so happy to have you on board.
And very excited to try those tires.
No, for real. And today it's incredibly pertinent because we drove 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 electric vehicles.
Yeah.
We've been driving them all week, right?
Yeah.
Like the cool thing about our awards this year in my mind is we are doing this cross-pollination, right? So like vehicles are getting to compete in multiple categories. And I think this is staying true from last year. Electric vehicles, we're just treating like, and I know this is going to sound completely wild, vehicles that you can buy.
Sure.
So the Ford F-150 Lightning, it gets to compete for our best electric vehicle award, but it also gets to compete for best truck. Same thing with the Hummer EV, the GMC Hummer EV, which is very large and in charge, incredibly badass and kind of cool. We've got the Hyundai Ioniq 5. Ioniq 5 might be the only one that's in electric only, right?
Only competing in that one category.
Yeah.
That's right. Because unlike our good friends at Motor Trend, we do not consider it an EV or SUV rather.
Yeah.
Not an
Tall
SUV.
hatchback.
Tall hatchback, a lovely one, really
Yes.
cool. What else? We've got the Lucid Air GT, which is competing in 3 categories.
It's the only car in 3 categories, I think.
I think we figured out there are 2 in 3 categories.
Is there? Luxury EV. Oh, the iX, I think, is.
iX is the other one.
iX
That's
is the
right.
other one, right? BMW iX, which I always start talking about that. That's an interesting place to start because this week was the first time that I had been in the BMW iX. And after today, now I've had quite a lot of seat time in it. I think that is a spectacularly cool vehicle to drive.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of times we get hung up, and a lot of the conversation tends to get hung up on the looks of the thing because it's got a big, bold, divisive grille, and otherwise some sort of like weird touches. But once you're inside the cabin, it's a cool car. Right? It's a really pretty fantastic luxury car, honestly.
BMW,
right?
I mean, a lot of the BMW stuff, the gas-powered stuff, to me at least, I don't know if you guys feel the same, is kind of gotten a little stale. Same design, same basic layout, same interior structure. And then you get into the iX and you're like, whoa, this is a totally different thing. And this is a thing we know BMW can do, like because of their history. They build some of the best stuff. Like this is one of the best interiors, I think, of any SUV. And that's, you know, with a lot of really great SUVs in the driveway right now.
Absolutely,
like I love the interior of that thing.
It's so well done and so like really well crafted too. Like all the materials that they use in that one are so unusual. Lots of soft touch, but then there's like the matte finished wood that's actually touch sensitive in the middle. So they're not separate buttons. You're literally just pressing down on the wood trim.
Very cool
Which
effect.
is a lot of fun. And then they've done BMW has done crystal selectors and levers before, but they're just everywhere in the iX.
Yeah.
And it just is some really nice things to interact with when you're in the car. And that's to say nothing about how nicely it drives too.
Yeah.
Really lovely to drive, incredibly quiet. I mean, EVs are quiet, but this is quiet in terms of NVH. And in addition to the lack of like an ICE powertrain, noising things up, I guess. There's not a lot of noise from the suspension.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of road noise. Certainly not a lot of wind noise. And then the sounds that you do hear are engineered in this really beautiful way to make the experience pretty special.
We talked a lot about that last night when we were discussing best SUVs.
Right.
And we talked about, and also best luxury. And we talked about how the iX, like BMW went to the experts, Hans Zimmer himself, to design the sound
like
profile
the
for that
expert.
car. Like the name in music composition.
Right.
And you made the like very prescient observation that what wonderful things happen when you actually talk to the experts.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's like, I know a lot of people complain about the lack of sounds in EVs, right? Especially acceleration. But when your car sounds like a spaceship that was created by, Hans Zimmer, like that's really cool.
That's
Yeah,
a totally
very different.
perfectly acceptable trade-off.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So real quick, and thanks again to everybody. Keep questions and comments coming. We have a few things to answer. First, I just want to hit, Buddy says, why is the video quality so bad? We apologize profusely for the video quality. You guys, if you're seeing issues with that, we tried our best. Like, we actually had an entirely different setup for this podcast planned. We're really out kind of in the sticks right now. We have crappy Wi-Fi.
I'm going to steal your line and say that good driving roads and racetracks aren't in cities.
That's
so
right.
When you're out in the country, it's kind of hard
to get to a place where we can test all these things and really do the kind of testing that we want and be close to a racetrack. In this case, Willow Springs, which is phenomenal. We sacrificed things like Wi-Fi. We made every effort, including buying some technology to try and enhance it. But unfortunately, it's a little choppy. So, Buddy, if you could bear with us, we would love for you to like listen along, and we apologize for the pixelization of that.
It's a podcast anyway, so just pretend you've got your earphones
Yeah, for sure. We know you guys can't see Kyle, but Kyle is manning the digital dashboard and the podcast himself, and he hates it. It drives him crazy that it's like this. But and then we've got, let's see, SPX Nomad says, this is a great question, right? So we'll do rapid response here. Brett, if money is no issue, which EV would you guys get for daily driving? And let's say we can deal with the cars that we have here, or we can extend that out to the universe, right? Because he's not saying Star Wars specific, but
So I didn't have a great experience with the Lucid in my driving yesterday, and through no fault of the car, it just was a really sloppy day. It wasn't a great time to strut that car's stuff. Today, however, I had a great time driving that vehicle.
Yeah.
I finally figured out how to navigate the kind of complicated center touchscreens and everything like that. And I'm sold hook, line, and sinker. Money, no object, that's my EV.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I will say that I like the Lucid a lot. I think it did a lot of things really well. But if it's a matter of just preference, and I know a lot of EVs and just cars in general don't make the cut for Star Wars just because of certain things, but man, the Polestar lineup to me right now, between the 2 and the 3, they're doing things, and we haven't driven the 3, so it obviously wasn't eligible, but like what they're doing is really, really interesting. And now they have a new performance version of the 2. So I think it would be a Polestar 2, maybe like a fully loaded, spec'd out version.
I love the Polestar. I think the thing that I love about the Polestar, though, and we've talked about this a lot, is I like the value version. I think that you're getting a ton of bang for your buck with the Polestar 2, especially the single motor version. I don't know. I think right now for me, it's the Lucid as well. Like the Lucid GT or the GTP. I didn't drive the Dream Edition, but like you're almost there with the Grand Touring Performance. That car has got, and you're totally right. And I think that we could all like find things that need to be buttoned up about it, right? It's a brand new company making a brand new vehicle. Manufacturing maybe needs to get a little bit tighter and all that stuff. But like the underlying technology that they have in their electric architecture, their battery systems, like they built everything in house. I think it's very impressive. That car it's one demerit in my mind is that it's expensive.
Sure.
So if money is no object, I think the Lucid is the way that I would go as well.
The thing that clinched the Lucid for me today was we had to, being out in the absolute middle of nowhere, we have to drive pretty far to get our cars charged. So I drove down to a 350 kilowatt charger down in the city, went in to use the bathroom, and came out, and it had already added 120 miles of range.
Crazy, yeah.
So it was a 350 kilowatt, it was a fast charger, but 120 miles of range in less time than a fuel stop would take.
Yeah.
And that is just a huge step forward for electric vehicles in terms of like massive, like wide scale adoption.
Yeah,
Actually,
absolutely.
Can I change my answer and do like a humble brag real quick?
Sure, yeah.
The $1 million or $2 million Rimac Nevera would be my answer.
Oh, really?
I have
good one.
driven that
Yeah,
car,
yeah.
and it is amazing.
Right. And
Well,
I still
can I
just
change
say
my
Rimac.
answer? Because I'm going to do
He
an
said
EV
no
swap
way.
Jaguar E-Type.
Yeah. Oh, that's next year.
Yeah. No. That's Rimac is a good one. I'm
Yeah,
going to
why
change
don't-
my answer to that too.
Why didn't we get the Nevera out here? That was a mistake. No. So yeah, great questions. And
Yeah.
again, like if you guys have more, keep them going. So let's stay on the Lucid for a little bit, like because we talked about it a little bit yesterday. Again, it's competing in multiple categories. I think it was really fun to see it. Like I don't want to spoil anything, and of course we're not going to give away any winners. We actually don't know the winner for EV yet.
Yeah.
Like we haven't had that discussion in this process, so we're not sure. But one of the things early in the day at the track that really tickled me was, so we're doing some instrumented testing, we're doing track driving, and again, we'll like sort of share all of those results when the Star Awards is more finalized. But we're doing this morning we were doing some 0 to 60 and then 60 to 0 testing, and on the front straight of Streets of Willow at Willow Springs, which is a nice long place to do all of that. And there's a tower in the middle that was sort of a point of orientation as you're watching.
Sure.
Brett was actually doing all this testing. He was our man behind the wheel. And I actually thought when it was the Lucid's turn to go, because I've been watching them all sort of, like accelerate and stop. I pulled up to the fence or came up to the fence because I thought that you were having a problem with the car because you were stopped so far behind the tower.
Yeah.
And the reality is just you got up to 60 so quickly and stopped so quickly that it looked like a mistake, but it was just what that car is capable of.
Yeah.
Like absolutely bananas to me.
I mean, to the surprise of no one, it did 0 to 60 to 0 with like a buffer time. Like you went past 60 and coasted for a minute and then hit the brakes.
Yeah.
With that buffer time, even it did that distance. It did that feet in less distance than like the Civic Si took to get to 60.
Right.
Full stop.
A lot less.
Yeah. It's just a bonkers.
The tower with the start finish line, I don't think there was any other car that made it 0 to 60 to 0
close.
before the start finish line. And this was like 3/4 of the way there. Like it wasn't even that close. It's insane.
That was really funny. Like I came to a stop, rolled down the window, waved hello to the people who were waiting in the pit lane, and Seth came over and was like, "What happened? Is there a problem?" I was like, "No, I'm just done." It was great. It was so fun.
It reminded, this is getting us off the weeds a little bit, but it reminded me, I wish I could remember the person who told me this story, but when Bugatti Veyron first debuted, it was one of the early first drives of it, and they had their hot shoe, their like test driver for Bugatti go out. And one of the things that they were doing, and I think they were kind of pretending it was impromptu, but it really wasn't, was they're at the factory and their gates in front of the factory. And the journalist in question was behind the wheel and the test driver was sitting shotgun. And he said, when I say floor it, I want you to floor it. And when I say step on the brake, I want you to step on the brake all the way to the floor. And he's pointed at essentially the driveway at the gates that are closed. And the guy did it, and he was like, it was absolutely insane because we stopped well short of the gate, but he's like so confident in the vehicle's ability to like get up to 100 miles an hour.
Good.
And then back down to 0 in the driveway of the factory, right? And I thought about that a lot today, where I'm like, man, that'd be a really interesting test at this point, right? Because the acceleration of
it'd be great to like line it up in front of like a crash test wall.
Yeah.
And do that and be like, all right, you're going to get up to 100 and then stop and you're not going to crash into the wall.
Yeah.
Well,
super fun.
The Lucid, I mean, so they have the 3 drive modes, right? And Sprint is the most powerful, unlocks everything. what was the horsepower figure again? I don't know.
819.
819. And it gives you a warning before you activate it.
Yeah.
You press it, and then it says, "Are you sure?" Because it's gonna like unlock everything, and you're like, "Yes." And then you hit it, and then you accelerate, and it's another level of speed.
Well, and speaking of the Veyron, Lucid quotes a 0 to 60 time of I think 2.8 seconds for the GT that we drove.
Yeah, I think that's right.
The Veyron is
I think I have it, but carry on.
the Veyron is 2.5 or 2.6.
Yeah.
So in 10 or 15 years, we've gone from a $1.2 million car to a $150,000 car doing that same performance. And of course, there are other alternatives in the EV space that advance that even further, 2.3, 2.4 seconds for less money. So it's bonkers how effectively these cars put the power down.
Yeah.
Grand Touring 3 seconds to 60 according to Lucid, and
Cool.
Grand Touring Performance 2.6 seconds according to Lucid. So
I'm glad to hear that they did it in 3. That makes me feel
yeah,
without giving
absolutely.
anything away. That makes me feel
no
pretty good.
spoilers, but we're in the ballpark, let's say. Super cool, like really impressive. And again, like when we do all of this actual reporting, like there's plenty. There are nitpicks, and there are nitpicks with a lot of these cars, right? But I'd say overwhelming. The EV segment on its own is so innovative. The design is really interesting. Like they're a lot of fun. Everybody is operating in white space right now. Everybody is doing something that is really brand new, and that's very exciting. I think that one of the places where, going to the totally opposite end of the spectrum, one of the places where, from a design perspective, that translates really well is the Ioniq, right? The Ioniq 5. I said it a couple times to a few of you guys, like it's not quite my taste. I totally appreciate that it's like moving the game on in terms of design, and Hyundai is doing really, really fun things. It's not exactly what I want it to be, but man, the more you look at that car inside and out, the more you find just like neat stuff happening all over the place. From the little cube lights, I think people notice that right away. Like the sort of surfacing on all of the body panels is really interesting and very geometric. And then you get inside and there's kind of more of the same, but it's not a mimic. It's just like more original thought in the interior.
I noticed something really interesting today when we were sitting in the pits looking at the design. The wheel wells have these like
that's my favorite
lines.
feature on
they
that
have
car.
like these vertical cuts, and I'm like, why do they have that? And they line up perfectly with the actual door angle, like the angle of the door opens. So it's like it doesn't look like it's a door, crease. It just looks like it's part of the design, which I thought
that's really clever. I haven't noticed that. That's
really cool.
That's a really clever way, because so frequently, like when you have wheel arches, automakers will just chop the wheel arch in half, and the door will cut right through it, and it looks like terrible. But that's a really clever. I had no idea that's.
I saw it's cool, and I think the design is like, it's really interesting, and in the right spec, at least for me, like the right spec, it looks really good. I think certain specs kind of make it look funky, like with the wrong wheels and the wrong colors. But I love that they just went crazy with it, and they just said, we're gonna do this retro 80s pixelated design, and that's it. It's either gonna work or it's not gonna work. And I think so far it's worked.
Yeah, totally agree. I think that, like, Brandon brought this up, but the color palette maybe is a little bit muted. Although I do think that the color, like on this one, it changes so much in the light. It's kind of like a green gray almost, like depending on the light you're looking at, is really good.
What's the name of our color? Is it digital teal? I love it.
Digital teal.
I love it. It's my favorite.
Yeah.
Really nice. But like overall, like driving the car. So I took the Ioniq 5 out this morning, like to the track. We were being gentle because we're also like, you're charging the Lucid. We're pretty far away from easy access to chargers. And we knew we were going to the track. So we're being super conservative, like getting to and from the venue essentially. Man, it is like, it's a great airy cabin, a really nice experience. I'm gonna have a little bit more time out in it tomorrow, where I'm gonna push it a bit harder. But it's just like, I feel like it is that driving style, position, cabin, amenities inside it is gonna fit really well. I kept thinking, like, people who have been in a Prius for multiple generations who want to make the move to EV will really appreciate what Ioniq 5 is bringing to the table right now.
Yeah.
Being less dynamic maybe than some of the other ones, but really like ergonomic, really user friendly in a lot of ways.
I like that it's not trying to be something that it isn't. I really appreciate that that the Ioniq 5 is perfectly comfortable being a nice, spacious, airy, super cushy ride, and not really a whole lot of sporting pretensions. That's not to say it's not fast or capable
It is
or like
quite
unstable.
quick.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's not. It doesn't strike that in your mind. You're kind of just like, oh, this is a place where I'm just going to chill out and relax and enjoy a beautiful drive through the country. Like,
Yeah.
And I also love that Hyundai is taking full advantage of the EV. You mentioned earlier that like you have a clean sheet of paper to design something special, and Hyundai is taking full advantage of that by giving the car a completely flat floor, that movable center console that gives it like, you can get out front through the passenger side door if you need to. Like it's really airy, and they're really taking advantage of that design flexibility, which I think is great.
It's so weird. Like I said this morning, but like I don't know, it's like 40 degrees here. It was raining the last 2 days.
Very
it's
cold.
freezing.
Right, yeah.
But I got into the Hummer this morning, and it felt so uninviting. Like just the rubber and the hard metal and the creases and the Call of Duty graphics. I'm like, oh, I feel like this car doesn't want me to be sitting in the driver's seat right now. But then you get in the Ioniq 5 and it's like nice flat floor, nice carpet, everything's light and bright and airy, and it's like, okay, this feels like a nice, like a living room, like where I want to sit.
Yeah.
There's also, I haven't actually ridden back there, but like I think Ioniq makes great use of the interior space for passengers, right? Like maybe cheating a little bit more for passengers and less for cargo. But the back seat is really spacious. I just think it's going to be like, I think that, like everything involved, the range too, like is not, it's probably the lowest of, it is the lowest of the group that we have right now. I have it on my cheat sheet, but
I want to say it's,
but overall with like price, styling, size, space, I think it's gonna hit it, be on the button for a lot of different small families, single owners, and things like that.
And it is bigger than it looks. I mean, I think in pictures people think it's just a hatchback, but it is very much a compact CUV in terms of interior space.
It has a longer wheelbase than the Hyundai Palisade.
Yeah.
It is the longest wheelbase that Hyundai makes in the United States.
Yeah. That's crazy. So, I did not know that.
Yeah.
But so all right, Jeff, you brought up Hummer. Like Hummer is fair to say, like we had this experience just when we were leaving the track, right?
It's like a fist. Like if someone made a fist and they put it on wheels and they said, "Here's your car," that's how I feel about the Hummer.
Hummer is it just gets all of the attention, right? Like everywhere you go, like of all the vehicles we're driving, the Hummer, which is not Series 1, Edition 1, Edition 1 in the like white and black with gold accents inside.
All the graphics are like lunar themed. Like when you switch it to off-road mode, it like shows the truck blasting through like a lunar landscape,
Yeah.
Very wacky.
People pay a ton of attention to it. You guys took it to charge, and like we're having a million conversations every time you do that. Like you're gonna get a lot of attention in that car for the next like several years for sure.
And it's really interesting attention too. Like I pulled up to the charging station 2 days ago, plugged it in, and had a guy come over who had a Tesla, and he wanted to know everything about this one. And then later that night, I brought it down again, plugged it in one more time, and there was a guy driving a Ram 3500, like a lifted Ram 3500, and he wanted to know everything about it.
Yeah,
like it is drawing people from all across the automotive spectrum because it's just so like over in your face, like kind of badass.
And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I think that's a way to sort of bridge the gap between, there's a really hardcore set of truck buyers and diesel owners that are like, oh, I'd never buy an EV, but then they see the Hummer and they're like, okay, maybe, because that thing's pretty badass. But then it's like Tesla owners are like, okay, that's cool too. It really does bridge the gap, and it's really interesting. Although someone brought up, was it Instagram? I don't know. One of our commenters on Instagram or Twitter said, do they make it in any color other than white?
Right. Well, because they're all the same. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's all Edition 1 for now. So.
Yeah.
Especially like the media units, the review units that have been going around. Like, that there aren't that many of them right now. And they're trying to make as many as possible to like sell to customers. We've talked about this a little bit before with other, especially General Motors vehicles, like they're production constrained, and so we're not getting as early or easy access to some of these vehicles as we normally would because they want to sell them to customers, right? But yeah, Hummer is really cool, and I think it's easy to forget that GM as a company has had Bolt and Bolt EUV for a long time.
Sure.
So there are a couple things happening. Like one, GMC wants to make a big statement about like their brand and bringing Hummer into the GMC brand. I think it's like low key a really big deal. I know it's not low key, but like that gets lost a little bit.
Yeah.
But what Hummer is doing is being a technology demonstrator for everything that GM as a corporation can do right now with an electric vehicle. It is 1,000 horsepower and 1,200 pound-feet of torque. It is the biggest expression of Ultium right now.
Sure.
Massive capacity. Every possible trick that you can do to make a vehicle be incredible off-road, including the crab walk thing, including
and like beyond the crab walk, the 4-wheel steering actually makes it a pretty livable vehicle.
Yeah.
If you do, like, you don't have to live in the wide open spaces because that thing has a tighter turning radius than, you know, probably some compact cars, just with how aggressively the rear wheels kick it out. So.
which you need to have because it's gigantic and because you can't see out of it. Like the cameras everywhere are really important because
the visibility is
very
pretty
bad.
atrocious.
The windshield is like straight up.
Yes, but it is serviced by 3 wipers, which I
it has 3 windshield wipers.
MGB vibes, I love it.
Real quick, we've got John checking in, saying hi from Minnesota.
Hey. I
Hello.
love Minnesota.
Hey, John. Thank you so much. And also, video is blurry. Yeah, John, sorry if you're just tuning in. I did a longer diatribe. We apologize. Basically, our Wi-Fi is really crappy. We're out in the middle of nowhere. We are doing our best. We apologize. Hang with us. Listen. Maybe do something else. Listen and don't watch, I guess. But we do apologize for the blurry video.
I had the best burger of my life in Minnesota, so I have very fond feelings for your state, just so you know.
What burger? Where did you eat it?
I don't remember. It was at this bar by Mitchell Hamline School of Law, which is where my friend was going at the time. And we went and got burgers, and it had like potato chips and chili and pickles and everything on it. It had like everything on it, and it was incredible. So good on you, Minnesota. Thank you very much for the good burger.
Love Minneapolis, my favorite airport probably in the entire country to fly through. So yes. Hello, Minnesota. A couple more comments coming in quickly. Todd Holter says hello. Hello, Todd. And then Buddy again. Buddy, thanks for hanging with us despite the bad video quality. We appreciate it. Don't U.S. car brands sell the first cars in national colors? Like UK equals green, Germany equals silver, Italy equals red, Spain equals yellow, Japan equals white. So that's it. Like that tradition comes from racing, right? Like from the earliest days, like it made it easy when you're doing international racing to identify like the country of origin for the by the paint of the car. Absolutely, that still matters. Like I think that there's a lot for different brands. That especially, you know, I'm thinking like I guess like both Mercedes and Audi can like lay claim to silver on behalf of Germany. Ferrari obviously is quite famous for red, if I'm not mistaken. So interesting point. Now, the U.S., I think that U.S. racing colors are typically blue.
White with blue stripes or blue with white stripes?
Brandon Turkis off camera saying white with blue stripes or vice versa. Yeah. I think that's right. So white kind of works, but it doesn't tell the whole picture. I don't think that's the Hummer thing. I think the Hummer thing is closer to being a tie to NASA.
Yeah, their whole deal with the Hummer is that it was inspired by like the Saturn V rocket and what a technological leap forward that was for mankind back then.
Yeah,
the Ultium platform is for mankind now. So.
I just want to see it in yellow. I want to see it in that bright and mustard yellow that they had. The
Hummer H2 yellow.
Yeah. That's what I want to see. You guys, we have somebody. This is the first time ever that I've seen. We have somebody saying hi from. It is. I'm sorry. Oh, Kevin Lee is saying hi from Taiwan, where it's near noon. It's 12:26.
Hey, cool.
Buddy again says U.S. is light blue, France is dark blue. France is blue. They're
blue.
I think that you're right. I think that we're all on the right track, buddy. And then John says, John Check says again, I like the i7 BMW. Kyle did a review on it. That's right. So
Who? Kyle? Who? No, Kyle's a friend of ours.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the i7. I drove the prototype of the i7 in Germany, and I was really, really impressed with that. And this was after driving EQS and a few of the other newer EVs. It just didn't make the cut. Like it wasn't. It didn't make the cut for Star Awards, like the timeline. But
Yeah.
I think next year it'll
Be eligible next year.
It'll be
Almost
eligible.
certainly,
There's a
yeah.
strong chance it'll be here next year.
Yeah. So for Star Wars and for honestly, this is not unique to us. Everybody kind of has to draw a line in the sand of what vehicles are going to be eligible and what are available, frankly, too. So i7 is something that's going to be fantastically interesting to have be part of the same competition starting next year. So
I'm just going to shamelessly plug our website for 1 second because Victoria Scott wrote a really brilliant review of the i7 for us a couple of days ago. She draws this fantastic parallel between the Transporter's BMW 735 from 1998 or 1999 to the new one today, and says that this is Jason Statham's electric car, which I really love.
It's just obscure movie references for Brett. Like, is anybody else who writes that?
movie?
Have you ever seen the
The
Transporter?
No, I've never
Transporter?
seen
Oh,
the Transporter.
Oh my god.
Get out.
Yeah.
That's not an obscure movie.
I knew
Good
the
Lord.
movie. I just have never seen it.
So maybe we can put something up, Kyle Freudenberg, our producer, about Again, I keep apologizing about the video quality. It maybe you're seeing it in 1080p, actually 1080p, or I'm sorry, 480p.
1080p would be great.
1080p would be great. Let's see. Lynn50 says the video is in 480p. You might be correct. We have bad Wi-Fi, and I really apologize. So we'll put a mea culpa up in the chat so that you guys know that we promise we're doing our best. And then Kashal says, curious for reference, a reference point. What cars do you guys personally own? Do any of you personally own an EV? And if so, how long?
That is a great question.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the answer honestly is no. Like none of us own an EV.
Yeah.
So here's a small bit of background that probably helps to explain that, right? Because maybe Kushal, you've seen this. Inside EVs over the last couple of years has been really great, doing some awesome stories about the personal vehicles that they own and why, right?
Yeah.
Many of them electric vehicles, like new and old. Many of the guys are on like multiple or on their second or third at this point. This gets a little bit into the back end. Motor1.com and InsideEVs.com are essentially sister sites. For a long time, the group that you're seeing here worked for Motor1.com and not on Inside EVs, and increasingly we're trying to kind of extend the bandwidth of both sites across both. So,
and to that end, we had every intention to have an Inside EVs specific editor on this program.
Yeah.
And for scheduling reasons, it just we weren't able to make it happen. And so we do kind of have to fill in that role as not total newbies, not complete, morons in regard to electric vehicles, but we are kind of picking up the slack as best we can.
We knew it was going to be able to happen. So our very good friend and colleague Tom Logney was we had really hoped that he was going to be able to come out and do a couple days with us. In lieu of being able to do that, we had a lot of conversations with Tom. Like we've gotten the download of some of the charge testing and range testing, obviously, that Tom has been working on too. So that feeds into honestly, like it can't feed into what we're doing here today, like on the road, but it fed a lot into like which vehicles we kind of chose to bring out.
Well,
right?
I'll say this to answer his question. Like my last car was a 2017 Subaru WRX. Yeah, super fun car. Love that car. But I think my next car will most likely be an EV.
Sure.
I don't see a reason not to buy an EV. We've talked about this a ton of times. Like I love the Polestar 2. Yep. I love the Ioniq 5. I even love some of the plugins that are out there, like from Hyundai. What is it? The Tucson.
Great.
So there's some really good plugins and full EVs out there, and I think that'll be my next car, probably an EV.
Especially, I've been really impressed this week as we've had to go down and charge, pretty regularly using the public charging network. The last time I really drove EVs in earnest was probably 6 or 8 months ago. I had a few EV testers, and just between now and then, the public charging network has become a lot more usable and user friendly. And I think it makes it a lot easier for those of us who maybe don't own homes, don't necessarily have at-home charging implements. It really is going to make it a lot easier with every passing year to adopt EV.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think I'm sort of in the same place as you, Jeff. Like, I mean, we have my family my wife drives an Audi Q5. I've got a Mercedes CLS, a personal car that I basically don't drive ever. And especially Molly, my wife, like, you know, because we have 2 small kids too. Like, we've talked about this a lot, that having something like, we've talked a little bit about like Bolt EUV and whether or not that's big enough, but she is like perfectly set up to be a driver of any kind of EV, because we live really close. I work from home. She lives really close to where she works. And both of us like kind of appreciate the overall sort of social benefits, like the environmental benefits. Like, we don't, you know, like, she's not that interested in being a big consumer of carbon essentially. So I think it's a matter of time and a matter of like essentially facilities at home, but that is likely to be the next new vehicle purchase that we make. So,
That's cool.
Kishal is also letting us off the hook and saying that there's no judgment. It's just helpful for understanding the viewpoints better, which we appreciate and I think agree with too.
Well, and one thing that coming from, like, I drive a BMW Z4 when I get the chance.
Yeah.
And which isn't very frequent. But one really cool thing coming from the internal combustion side over to the EV side is just how incredibly bitchin' and cool almost all of them are now. Like, even the Ioniq 5, which is ostensibly comfortable and gentle and not particularly like sporty, it is so much faster than like probably 90% of the cars on the road today.
Yeah.
And it's just really cool to see, even from, you know, like this like traditional like gas cars are more fun, blah blah blah. It's just not true. Like, electric cars offer so much performance and so much like excitement.
Absolutely, yeah.
So anyway,
just like a couple of, Kushal is also saying that owning an EV is very different, and when you own a home charger versus relying on bad public infrastructure, unless you own a Tesla, right? So yeah, 100% correct. John is asking, why do you think people hate EVs? I run into a lot of people that hate EVs, and also people think all EVs are Nissan Leafs. I think it's just about understanding. That's one of the reasons why, like, we're excited to do this, right? Like, it's a really great the sort of setup that we have at work with the network that we have with multiple, not just like the Motor One and Inside EVs, but the Motorsport Network, our parent company, has lots of websites. It allows us to sort of broadcast that message to a large number of people. So some of it is just like getting people to understand like what the technology is, that everything is not a Leaf, like that there are lots and lots of different options right now to fit into different lifestyles.
I think for anything, adoption takes a while. Like, mass adoption takes a while,
of course.
And especially in the car market, not even specifically to EVs. Like, the Kia and Hyundai brands have had a rough go for the past 2 decades, and I think a lot of consumers still think like, oh, Kia and Hyundai, you know, those are bad cars. But we have 4 of them out here,
right? Yeah,
5 of them out here, like, for car of the year. Like, it just takes a while for the average consumer to sort of pick up on certain things. And the Leaf was the pioneer, really, and like, so people know that. But then, you know, it just takes time.
Absolutely, yeah.
well, I mean, 120 years ago, there were people who were shocked at the prospect of strapping a tank full of gasoline to your car. Like, that was something that was shocking to the average horse owner who didn't really, frequently encounter flammable fluids in his daily drive. So
maybe we should go back to horses.
I'm down.
Yeah.
I think the carbon emissions of horses are pretty dang high, though.
Gonna be bad on my back too.
Yeah,
I think around on a horse all the time.
What if it was a horse with like the Ioniq 5's like lounge chairs?
Oh, there we go. Yeah, like a sedan chair. I like that. Well, you know, speaking of adoption, I think like the one I believe that we EV that we have left out so far is maybe the one that might be the easiest to adopt, right? The F-150 Lightning. One of the things that we've all reflected this in different ways in the conversation that we've had. Really impressive overall, like in terms of the technology that's powering it. You know, I think that the power is absolutely impressive. The range is great, but really the magic of that is that it's a pickup truck that if you owned a pickup truck before, you can just get in and drive. It's going to be a little funny at first that you're not hearing a nice engine like under the hood, but like everything else is the same. And when it comes to Ford trucks, that means pretty great, right?
Yeah.
You know, like lots of technology. But you don't have to change your lifestyle. You don't have to bend your mind around a new way to drive or anything like that to get in the Lightning and just enjoy it and use it and work with it, right?
It's sort of like the Hummer in the sense of like, I think it'll convert a lot of just normal truck people that like trucks. And I've had friends like that own F-150s currently, and I've shown them the Lightning. They're like, yeah, I'm gonna buy the Lightning next. Like it's not even like oh, I'll never buy an EV. It's just, oh, I'm gonna buy this new cool F-150. You know.
Yeah.
Our colleague Brandon has this really intriguing theory that I think holds a lot of water, that the thing that's going to convert a lot of people to EVs is when their work truck or their work van is an EV and they realize, oh, all of a sudden I have all of this instantaneous torque. If you have charging facilities at home, you can go about your daily life totally normally. And then they're gonna be driving around in their Ford e-Transit delivery vans and realizing how easy and how enjoyable it is to drive. And then they're going to convert to EVs themselves. And I think the Lightning is a really great bridge to do that. It like kind of applies everything that Ford does well about work trucks, work vehicles, and kind of just makes it accessible to the average pickup buyer.
Yeah, for sure. It's another one that like, and I know this happens. There's probably a lot of conversation about new vehicles that are showing up at the chargers, like because you a lot of times just have some time to kill. So it's interesting to ask questions, but people really want to know about that truck. Like, I think that they see it and they understand like it can fit into their lifestyles, or they're a truck owner right now. I talked to a guy last night at the Walmart we were charging at who ended up in a, God, now I can't remember if he said Mach-E, but like could get one because he was on the list and basically couldn't wait any longer, which is another like on the downside of the experience right now, circa 2022 is there is more supply or more demand than supply for sure for almost everything. Like I don't think there's a single EV that anybody makes right now that has like they're not sitting on lots. But yeah, there's a ton of interest about that. I think people understand it implicitly, and I think that when we see more and hear more from our readers and viewers and about driving them, that they'll say just that, right? Like it fits really well into their lifestyle for sure. Let's see. Oh yeah, and we also use the so John said plug an extension cord into the truck and run it to the. Oh, sorry, I got to catch up. The F-150 takes off like a bat out of hell. The Lightning, you don't need a generator when you go camping. You can plug in an extension cord to the truck and run it to the tent. And then Kyle pointed out, we're charging our camera gear off it. It's super flexible. Like
one of the things that we loved the most about the F-150 that won the work vehicle award last year was that it had the Pro Power on board. We could keep everything charged. We were, as we mentioned, we're in a pretty remote location, so there wasn't really a lot of way to like come back to the house and charge batteries and stuff like that. Yeah. So our photo and video team were able to keep everything charged the whole time we were out. The Lightning does exactly that, just with a much larger reserve of energy, and it's made it so much easier to kind of just like keep the workflow going while we're out and about, which is really nice.
I think one of the concerns that a lot of people had when Ford said they were building the Lightning in the first place was, how is it going to handle hard work? And in my mind, it was like, well, Ford has been doing this a really long time. Like they've been building work trucks a long time. I don't think they're going to skimp on things like Pro Power and even the simple stuff like the shifter that folds down and a little workbench, like little stuff like that Ford thought of. Like they do such a good job with that stuff on their gas truck. So it's not a surprise that the Lightning had all the same stuff. And it is such a versatile and capable pickup.
The towing thing is interesting. I think that we know right now, both from like, we know a lot from the experiences of people that we're seeing, again, on YouTube, like sort of friends and colleagues. Like there's a long way to go when you're talking about pickup trucks, especially, and SUVs, and doing things like towing, because, like these vehicles are operating within a capacity that's pretty well defined, and it's an extremely complicated engineering problem to sort of solve, right? When you're adding 5,000 10,000 pounds, right? Well, I guess 10,000 is pretty outside, but 5, 6, 7,000 pounds of towing,
Yeah.
you're going to diminish the range. Like you're at, just like if you're doing it in your diesel truck, you're going to get far worse fuel economy when you're towing stuff like that. So we understand the kind of idea and the idiom, but like we have to wrap our minds around it a little bit, like how that applies to the electric architecture and the battery capacity and things like that. So is it perfect? No. Does it replicate the ecosystem that we have right now? No. But I think it's all about like, how do you do the most good for the largest group of drivers and car buyers right now with all of these segments and all these form factors and electric powertrains?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Well, and it's still, it's still kind of within the realm of a lot of like recreational towing, like I grew up, we used to tow a little tent camper to the mountains, and it was, and we had a powerboat as well. And it was like maybe 10 or 15 miles of towing to get the boat into the water, maybe 50 miles of towing to get up into the mountains. And that's still very much within the realm of possibility for a fully charged Lightning.
absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
for obviously there's people who tow Airstreams across the country, and this may not be the perfect fit for them yet. But, for a lot of people who just kind of need to have some fun around town, it's still a great option.
Right. Yeah.
In spite of that little limitation.
Man, you guys, this has been great. Thank you everybody for the comments and the questions. We really, really appreciate it. This has been a fun one, and we're going to be back again tomorrow, I think, to wrap up everything. We're going to talk about performance cars. We're going to talk about value, best value. Those are all mostly cars that we've talked about at this point, but it's a totally different context, as we found out today.
Our
right?
value might be our toughest choice.
Such an
Absolutely
very diverse crowd of vehicles competing for best value.
Yeah.
No, it's been super fun, and like I said, it's always great to do this and to interact with you guys. If you are catching this after the fact, we're not live anymore. Please leave us questions and comments in the that we will get to. We'd love to answer those afterwards too, and we know that these things live on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter, the various social platforms that you might be viewing this on right now. So, cheers! Thanks for tuning in. We're dying. We haven't eaten anything in at least 10 minutes, so we probably need to do that now. But thanks everybody for joining us, and thanks guys.
Thanks for the comments.
All right.